Most people are good, my child. It's just that you haven't realized it yet. Harper Lee, the one who came before, does not deny the existence of evil, but gently points out that goodness is often quieter, less noisy, so it's easily obscured by the collisions of early life. People, in essence, are like embers covered in gray ash. If you only look at the surface, you see coldness and dullness. But when you patiently touch it, the warmth spreads. Kindness isn't always shown through grand actions, but sometimes just a yielding glance, a silence that doesn't hurt others, or a helping hand that appears at the right moment and then quietly withdraws. When young, people often carry disappointment from betrayal or misunderstanding, unconsciously putting on gray-tinted glasses to view life. But time and empathy will teach us how to remove those glasses, to realize that most people are still trying to live decently in their own way. A small lamp placed in a rainy night doesn't completely dispel the darkness, but is enough to make us believe that the road ahead still has light. We learn to be patient with people, tolerant with life, and most importantly, not to let temporary setbacks harden our faith in the goodness that always exists around us. Everyone has good things within them. That goodness might be that you don't know how wonderful you are, how much you can love, and what you can achieve. How wonderful is our hidden potential. Anne Frank's diary. In every person, there always exists a silent treasure of good things, like a seed deep in the soil, not sprouting, yet not because it lacks vitality, but because it hasn't met enough light and faith. We often walk through life with the habit of comparing, doubting, and shrinking ourselves, only to forget that we ourselves are a miracle waiting to be discovered. Have we ever asked ourselves how deeply we can love, how forgiving we can be, and how strongly we can surpass seemingly impossible limits? Open the door to a rich inner world where each person carries the ability to heal, create, and spread love. Goodness isn't always brilliantly displayed. Sometimes it's just silent perseverance, not giving up when things get tough. Kindness preserved after hurts. Human potential is thus like a deep ocean. The surface may be calm or stormy, but beneath lies abundant and mysterious energy. When we start believing in our own value, believing we can love more, achieve more, and become a better version of yesterday, then the seemingly impossible gradually takes shape. This reflection is not just encouragement, but an awakening. Look at yourself with gentler eyes, for within each of us is something wonderful, waiting to be recognized and to bloom. After all, what is a life? We are born, live a short while, then depart. A spider's life can't avoid entanglements, like spinning webs, catching prey. By helping you, perhaps I'm just trying to make my own life a bit more meaningful. And really, who among us doesn't need that? E.B. White, Charlotta, and Wilbur. We come to this world bringing nothing, live a short journey amid countless worries, then quietly leave as if we never belonged. Comparing one's life to a spider's evokes a small yet real image, surviving amid unavoidable tangles. Day by day, spinning webs, catching prey, mending broken threads. Human life is like that too. Rarely smooth, always interwoven with responsibilities, livelihoods, and intricate relationships. Yet, in that very tangle, meaning sprouts. When saying that helping others is perhaps just a way to make one's own life a bit more meaningful, the speaker doesn't exalt sacrifice, but admits a very human truth. People need to feel useful, to know their existence touches someone. The meaning of life, therefore, doesn't lie in grand or immortal things, but in small, sincere actions, enough to warm both giver and receiver. And the closing question, who among us doesn't need that, is like a quiet nod among lonely souls. For ultimately, in the short flow of time, what keeps people longest isn't achievements, but the feeling that they've lived without waste, have once made this life, even for a moment, better. People can never truly understand themselves if they only live in safety and comfort. Sometimes we need to challenge ourselves to discover the hidden abilities within. Mark Twain, people will never reach their true depths if they only linger in cozy, safe zones where everything is familiar to the point of no longer stirring emotions. Safety is like a warm cocoon. It protects us from harm, but also limits wings that have never been tested to fly far. When life is too flat, we easily mistake that we know ourselves well, while in reality, we've only gotten used to our most convenient version. Only when facing challenges, fear, failure, and inner doubts do people begin to see the hidden depths within. That's when we realize we're stronger than imagined, more resilient than believed, and amazingly adaptable in adversity. Challenges are like fire, not to burn us, but to temper, revealing the true nature of will and potential. Daring to step out of comfort doesn't mean blind recklessness, but conscious courage. Courage to accept imperfection, and courage to give oneself a chance to grow. In that journey, each fall becomes a lesson. Each boundary crossed opens a new door to inner freedom. Ultimately, understanding oneself isn't about knowing how safe you are, but how far you can go when forced to face challenges. And it's in those uncomfortable moments that people truly meet their most authentic and strongest self. In the same situation, people can view it with tragic eyes and take it as suffering, while also seeing it simply, even joyfully. Lev Tolstoy, in the same circumstance, when all objective things remain unchanged, people can live completely different experiences just by how they choose to perceive life. Some look at adversity with tragic eyes, magnifying difficulties into suffering, turning each stumble into proof of fate's injustice. But the same circumstance, if viewed with a simpler mindset, can become a light slice of life, even carrying subtle humor. Life is like an unfinished painting. Dark or light tones depend not only on the scene, but on the light in the viewer's eyes. When sunk in sorrow, every little thing weighs on the heart. But when we learn to smile at lacks, difficulties suddenly become manageable, endurable, and surmountable. A simple view doesn't deny pain, but accepts it as a natural part of the living journey, like rain and sun alternating in a long day. That choice of attitude decides each person's spiritual quality: suffering or serene, heavy or light. And when people are awake enough to understand they can't control circumstances, but can always control reactions, they'll find inner freedom even amid undesirables. Ultimately, life isn't what happens to us, but the story we tell ourselves about what happened. If you seek perfection, you'll never be satisfied. Lev Tolstoy, perfection, like the horizon, draws nearer only to recede further, leaving us forever in lack and unease. When setting absolute standards for life, others, and ourselves, we unwittingly deny the value of what's present, though it's full in its own way. Each success achieved quickly becomes small. Each joy touched is compared to an imagined, better version. Life thus turns into an endless chase where satisfaction is always postponed to a day that never comes. In reality, life's beauty isn't in flawless roundness, but in very human imperfections. A crack in the soul, letting light in; a mistake teaching forgiveness; an unfinished thing leaving echoes in memory. When we stop obsessing over perfection, we start allowing ourselves to live truly, to enjoy the incomplete, to rest in the present. Satisfaction doesn't come from everything as desired, but from accepting life's inherent imperfection, which doesn't make it less valuable. On the contrary, that imperfection makes life vivid, intimate, and more lovable. Only by letting go of absolute demands do people find lasting peace in their souls. Death is nothing at all. Not living is the truly terrifying thing. Victor Hugo. Death, after all, is just a closing moment, a period at the sentence's end that everyone must pass. It's silent, swift, and beyond human control. But not living is different. It's a prolonged, simmering state where people still breathe, still walk, but the soul withers day by day. Not living is when we let fear hold back dreams, let habits and safety erode aspirations, let days pass so similarly that yesterday blends with today. It's existing without truly being present, like a shadow gliding through one's life without leaving a trace. Downplay death and focus on the value of true living. Living with emotions, choices, commitment, and even mistakes. For truly living means accepting risks, accepting pain, but also opening to love, creation, and growth. A fulfilled life isn't measured by years existed, but by how much we've dared to be ourselves, dared to feel, and dared to follow what moves the heart. Thus, the scariest thing isn't death waiting at the road's end, but walking the whole road without ever truly living. Live while you can, for life only has meaning when we give it depth and soul. The future has many names. For the weak, the future is impossible. For the cowardly, it's always unknown. But for the utterly brave, the future is an ideal. Victor Hugo, a mirror reflecting each person's inner self. For the weak, the future appears as a cold wall named impossible, where all dreams are blocked by fear of failure and lack of self-belief. They look ahead with weary eyes, believing fate is sealed and efforts meaningless. For the cowardly, the future is like thick fog, vague and full of uncertainties. They dare not step, dare not choose, for each possibility carries risk, and uncertainty makes them hesitate. The future, in their eyes, is a big, unanswered question, enough to freeze the present in indecision. But for the utterly brave, the future has a different face. It's an ideal. It's no longer something to fear, but a destination to aim for, a lighthouse guiding through the dark. Those people understand the future isn't natural. It's shaped from small present choices, from commitment, perseverance, and unshakable faith. They don't wait for the future to be safe before stepping, but their steps shape the future clearly. This reflection shows the future doesn't change, but how we face it does. When people are brave enough to take responsibility for their lives, the future stops being a threat and becomes an invitation. To live bigger than fear, surpass limits, and turn the unhad into the aspirational. If you do something too well, then afterward, if you don't watch it, you start showing off. And then you're not as good as before. J.D. Salinger. When someone pours their heart into doing something decently and meticulously, the result naturally shines, like fragrance spreading from a blooming flower. But if afterward, we start looking back at ourselves, at others' admiring eyes, then the quiet focus on the work is gradually replaced by the desire for recognition. At that point, what we pursue is no longer quality or meaning, but our image in others' eyes. Showing off creeps in like a small crack, hard to notice at first, but enough to shake the foundation of dedication. When ego steps forward, hands, once patient, become hasty. Hearts, once listening, become noisy, and the once great work quietly diminishes. Not because we lose ability, but because we lose humility. The factor keeping talent enduring and pure. The best things are often done in silence, when the doer isn't busy looking back at their footprints to boast, but focuses on stepping the road ahead. Only when we maintain simplicity in mindset, seeing good work as natural duty, not a tool to polish ourselves, can that value last. For ultimately, what makes a person truly good isn't how much they're praised, but whether they can continue doing right, even when no one watches or applauds. Great people aren't born great, they grow to become great. Mario Puzo. The journey of being human. Greatness isn't the starting point, but the result of a long process of accumulation, collision, and self-improvement. Those admired in history or life didn't step into light with ready halo. They too were once clumsy, self-doubting, failing, and hurting like others. Those falls become fertile soil, nurturing depth of character and inner strength. Growth happens quietly, through each hard choice, each rise after failure, each moment choosing not to quit. Though the path ahead is dim, greatness, thus, isn't synonymous with perfection, but tied to the ability to learn, change, and surpass yesterday's self. Comfort and hope for those feeling small or not good enough, as it affirms human value, isn't framed by origin or present. Everyone has the right to grow, not just in age, but in mindset, courage, and responsibility for their life. When we understand greatness is a process, we stop comparing to others' destinations and start focusing on our own steps. And in that persistent growth, people gradually become better, stronger versions. Then one day, looking back, realize greatness comes not from who we were at start, but from never stopping efforts to become who we are.